Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. Internet culture has promoted the idea of self-love and acceptance to the point of lying to yourself. 16 Unpopular Opinions of Reddit, Part 3. It's not possible to just stop sexualizing female breasts. I've heard voices in the context of women's rights movement who are blaming people who sexualize the female body, and boobs in particular, and want to change the way they are perceived in society. But how do people expect this to happen? There is a reason boobs are so attractive to almost every dude and also women, and I really don't believe it's because of society. Yes, there are jungle tribes in the Amazons and parts of Africa where women don't cover their breasts, but I don't think young men in these societies are completely immune to the effect of beautiful, bouncing boobies. The female body is most beautiful and sexually attractive, and just because some people don't agree that doesn't mean it will, or even could change. Also, this has nothing to do with objectifying women. Whether we like it or not, boobs are hot. The rhyme was not planned. People who criticize celebrities and billionaires for moving to tax havens would only do the same themselves if they could. It might be more of a UK problem, seeing as a lot of British celebrities e.g. Lewis Hamilton, Mick Jagger, Ringo Starr, John Cleese, Michael Caine etc. have chosen to move abroad in the past. Before you say it, I'm not wealthy myself and I do not support somebody who deliberately chooses to evade taxes at all, which is much different from exploiting loopholes in the tax laws. However, I just think that criticizing a celebrity that moves for non-illegal tax reasons is just pure jealousy in my opinion. I might sound a bit cynical here, much easier to criticize richer people when you don't have money yourself, not to mention that your mindset and expectations change when you have more money. Strong women need to realize that us men don't date them not because they are strong-minded as they say, but because most of you are honestly just witches. If I had $1 for every time I heard women complain that men only like weak-minded girls or that we are scared of the strong ones, I would be sitting with Spike Lee at Knicks games sadly. What these females also fail to realize is that is far from the case. We would give you all a chance if you all stop acting like witches. What some of you call strong-minded, is really just a front so you don't have to change your ways. From the outside, or from the point of view of us men, you are just a witch. And no sane male is going to deal with a witch. Most of you strong women are disrespectful and just out of pocket at times. And I don't know how you expect to find a person with that attitude. There are a reason why most of these women only wise up after they get older and chase away everyone. There is a serious difference between being a strong woman and being a witch. Sadly, a lot of girls nowadays can't tell the difference. And that's also the reason why you're still single. People who frequently proclaim, "I don't care what other people think about me," are generally full of shh, and actually care the most, hoping they can make it appear to everyone else that they're indifferent rebels. It seems like every person I've met that is adamant about repeating this mantra, always are the same types that put on public facades. These are the same sort who just ooze an aura of trying way too hard. In general, this seems to be a more common occurrence to people in their 20s or younger, but is definitely not exclusive to that age. A lot of people use the older I get, the less I care what people think of me decree. While this might hold some truth, as you age, frivolous things that people used to judge you on are no longer a concern. Ultimately, when a person feels the need to broadcast this, whether it be while speaking or in posting boomer-esque Facebook memes, they are screaming the exact opposite about themselves. "I don't give a shh what people think about me," in essence means, it's important to me that you see and think that I don't give a f. People who actually don't give a f what others think don't usually have to go around announcing it unless absolutely pressed on the subject. They naturally exude it. The news is just tragedy porn. I was watching the news the other day, maybe the day after the London Bridge attack, and I was surprised by how many times the reporter managed to say who of course was shot and killed by police in one lengthy sentence. Now today they are describing every detail of how one of the victim's girlfriend was crying and mourning him. I feel like these details don't need to be repeated, not to mention shared. Anytime I'm watching news, I get so annoyed by how they seem to love the fact that they have something to report that they can politicize. I don't actually watch news on purpose. It's just on nearby TV sometimes. Kids shouldn't be woke. Get to see a lot of these woke kids post on the internet. I honestly think that whoever actually raises their kids that way is a bad parent. Now, take everything I say with a grain of salt, as I'm not a father, but you shouldn't just spill all the dark and gritty information about the world and politics into your kids at age 10. Let them have their innocence in childhood while they can. Honestly, I feel like there are some things I was better off not knowing as a kid. I'm not saying hide and censor everything around your kids, but I think parents need to walk a fine line between letting their kids know the world and letting them have their innocence. And slavery, racism, Holocaust and a plethora of other things. Those are things you're probably better off not knowing too much about at such a young age. People who are extremely competitive are usually deeply insecure. I've noticed this among really competitive individuals. Some competitiveness is fine, and I think it's healthy even. It's fun to play games and go against others for sport. But people who are overtly competitive in every aspect of their life, for example challenging people in work, rather than being part of a team, when there isn't any need for competition, are usually really insecure and use it as a means to fill the void in their being. It creates toxic work environments, toxic relationships. I've noticed intensely competitive people are even competitive with their significant other. Their pride gets in the way of letting them actually deeply love another, and honestly it doesn't do any good for the competitive individual. Maybe it would help to have mental health announcements about balancing extreme insecurity and competitiveness, some sort of way to help people be more healthy, not creating life into this endless battle of who is the better one, which I see as detrimental to anyone. There truly is not such a thing as free money. You'd think this is popular opinion, right? But it seems to not be the case. Or at least not on Reddit. Case in point. There's been a few posts over the past few weeks about parents wondering if they should cut their kids' money stream off or young adults venting that their money was cut and claiming their parents are insane. More and more of the top voted comments are upset at the various parents, grandparents, whoever, or accusing them of using money solely as a power trip. Let's examine that for a second. An adult, typically college student, is getting money from family, and said money has strings attached to it. Usually reasonable strings, like participate in the family and show us that you're getting good grades since we're paying for your educational investment, or do us a favor once in a while and house sit. But no, there's plenty of responses giving sympathy to and even infantilizing the young adults. If someone is giving you money, there's usually some expectations attached to it and you should clarify that at the beginning. If you accept that money's source, you should not cry foul when those expectations are set. If you don't need your family, friend or whoever in your life, then you don't need their money either. Obviously doesn't apply to actual children or specific cases of support legally owed to someone. The fact that the public accepts that people get raped in prison is absolutely horrible and needs to change. No one should be getting raped in prison, and it certainly shouldn't be accepted as some BS rite of passage or written off as a joke. Prison is meant to provide rehabilitation to those who deem a second chance appropriate. It shouldn't be a place absolutely devoid of human rights. Long fake nails aren't attractive. Long colorful plastic fingernails just are not attractive. They are counterproductive and ugly. I don't see any point to them, they just make your life harder. Haven't met a guy who actually likes them. Women with long fake nails look worse than without them. The reason men are funnier on average is because humor is one of the few socially acceptable ways for us to deal with our mental health problems. The reason there are more male comedians, and they seem better most of the time, is because generations men have been told that what happens to them, and how they feel, is unimportant and even weak. More men gravitate towards self-deprecation and humor because it is one of the few socially acceptable ways for us to cope with our mental health issues. Men aren't given the same nurturing or support as women, and so we look to different means of processing what we are going through, or have gone through. It isn't about toughing it out, or manning up, or even being immature. It is about a centuries-long system of us not being emotionally important, often even to our loved ones. Humor is a faulty way of processing emotional occurrences that no other skills are present to address. Men gravitate towards it more because people genuinely don't want to hear our struggles or support us. Guys shouldn't have to take a hint. Girls should use their words. I am so sick of talking to girls online and having them feign interest and then get mad at me for continuing to message them. People can't read minds. If you're not interested in someone, tell them and be honest. Don't waste their time. Ghosting is immature. You people really seem to think that your life is in grave danger every time you just say no. That's ridiculous and you're lying to yourself. Sure, horrible things can happen. But most guys aren't violent. I know girls do this because they are afraid of the guy's response, but that's on the guy. If you lash out when a girl rejects you, you're an idiot. Being an internet moderator is probably the most useless, pathetic activity you can do with your free time. They literally do it for free. They feed off the power that it gives them, until they stumble upon another section of a site where their moderator powers don't work. Watch them get infuriated. They solely do it for the power that it grants them. They love to hold power over people, to enforce their authority. Bend rules if someone doesn't technically break them but pisses them off somehow and reminds them who they are and why they do it. They simply do it for free. And if someone else pisses them off outside their reach, they just hope that it will spread to their community and break out in outrage, so they can get their power trip. I don't really need to name a few subreddits, but I think we know the ones that are actively doing this. No worries, you won't find them ever outside. The real world just reminds them that their power is just an illusion. It doesn't exist. Their power is meaningless apart from holding a few communities online, that no one really gives a sh about. 90% of the population could be generally attractive if they took care of their bodies. Basic eating and exercising goes a very long way when it comes to how good a person looks. One of the biggest turn-offs for many people, many, not all, is someone being out of shape. It is not generally physically attractive and it reflects on how you live your lifestyle. There are, however, people with poor genetic qualities that still wouldn't be considered attractive by most, but this is the minority. Internet culture has promoted the idea of self-love and acceptance to the point of lying to yourself. I see posts every day that say things like "look in the mirror, see that face, that's you, you're awesome and you're doing great," all over the internet. Sometimes I'm not doing a great job and I'm not happy about it. The last thing I need is someone telling me I am doing great, and that I'm awesome and special and should be happy. Oftentimes my own unhappiness is my own fault and somewhere inside I know it to be true. Maybe I've been lazy, or just incompetent. Sometimes we need to stop accepting ourselves for who we are and in fact do the opposite. When you look in the mirror, do you like what you see? If you don't, find out why. More often than not, you have a good reason to not like that person. Buried deep down inside, you know what the cause of your self-loathing is. But, it's much easier to just stop there, and just be a sad sack of bones. You see trash in the mirror because you are trash right now. You can fix yourself but don't count on some sad little meme telling you that it's going to be alright. No, it won't, unless you take some ownership over yourself. Greta Thunberg is doing more harm than good. Okay people. 6 reasons this spoiled brat pisses me off. She's a hypocrite. She's sponsored by a company who lent her their $1 million racing yacht, complete with backup diesel motor, to make her little trip. My problem with this? She had to fly the crew in to take the stupid boat back. Oh, and her handlers flew. So much for reducing carbon footprint. Instead of just herself and her team, she increased it by 4 people. Nice job, Greta. She's an Asperger's teen who blames everyone else, who has been obviously coached. You've stolen my dreams. Ah yes, the dreams of someone living in a first world country. Did I mention her parents are actors and have been activists? It's not like this is coming from a genuine spot for her. It's her parents propping up their mentally disabled child for sponsor money. Edit, keeping this original for clarity, but you guys have changed my mind on this point. I don't interact with individuals who have a social problem/disorder very often, so the comments have been largely educational. I no longer believe that her Asperger's makes her any less capable, but I would argue that someone with a social disorder might not be the best to promote activism, since it hinges on communication. 3. She claimed a $160,000 grant that could have gone to ecologists, green technologists, and conservationists who are actually saving the planet. I'm sure the guy working on green solutions to diesel was just thrilled his grant got rejected because a 16-year-old cried on a stage. 4. She offers no actual solutions. A young man her age has built a wind engine in Africa as a cheap alternative to petrol. See The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. He had a book published and his design has been replicated. We're actually studying it to integrate it into modern design. So don't give me this "she's just 16." BS. If she actually went to school or focused on solutions, she and her rich parents might have been able to build something. But I guess Obama photo ops are more important. 5. She's bringing attention to something she has no knowledge of. It's one thing to sob on a stage. It's another to actually have some scientific perspective. Journalists are blocked from actually asking her about climate change, and when they persist, her handlers interfere and cry harassment. She can't actually answer a single question, which makes her and the scientific community look like a pack of alarmist idiots. This is not how you educate people on a problem. 6. Protests sparked by her alarmist speech left my hometown of Seattle bathed in garbage. Guess what the protesters did with their signs? Recycle? Put them in a proper receptacle? If you guessed throw them in the street, you'd be correct. Oh, and they use toxic ink and paints to make those signs, while throwing them in gutters used to direct water to major rivers and the Puget Sound. Nice job, morons. Thanks for listening to RadioTTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more unpopular opinions. Let us know in the comments which opinion is most unpopular in your opinion.